Good evening. Welcome to Live United. Living United, where we have an opportunity to share all the great things that happen here in the Monadnock region that make a difference in the lives of our citizens. Today, I'm joined by Peg Monahan. Peg is the executive director of the Keene Senior Center here based in Keene, but serving communities outside of Keene. And I think sometimes people forget that it's centralized here, but that it's really an opportunity for seniors to come from anywhere in the Monadnock region.
Right. About 40% of our members come from outside of Keene, so it's definitely reaching outside of the city boundaries.
That's excellent. And, you know, we were talking before we came on the show here, and I was saying that, you know, if you drive down Court Street on any given day, particularly around the noon hour, I think, it's pretty hard to find a parking space. And I think that's in large part due to the Keene Senior Center being along the street there and just the number of people that you're serving right now.
We are. We have 21 parking spots. And we have 100, 150 people that come through every day. Now, some people come for an hour or two, and some people stay for a few more hours, but it's usually a pretty short stay. So people are in and out of the parking lot, but we have that parking, and then from us north on both sides of the street is free parking for most of the day, for the day. So there's a lot of folks that park there, but yeah, lots of times it's a long walk in. It's kind of like my aerobic exercise for the day.
Well, I was saying to you that the other day I was going somewhere and I needed to park along there, and I had to go way up by the rec center to be able to park, and I kind of laughed about it because you could see that it was centralized really to the Keene Senior Center, that people were walking to that location and things. So, you know, kudos to the Senior Center that it's become just a thriving incredible place for people to be. So let's talk about what's making it so thriving, Peg,
well,
because you've got some new programs, lots of old programs, new programs, just some great things happening.
Well, one of our, we really welcome new programs. I have this basic philosophy, unless it's too outrageous, of inviting people to try a new project. A lot of people come to us and say, I'd like to teach a class in writing, or I'd like to teach a balance class, or I'd like to, you know, so what we do is that we run with everything. And some things do very, very well, and some things just don't have a lot of interest. You know, people don't really want to learn about shingles, but they do like line dancing, so, you know. So we have to pick stuff that's fun but informative and important to do. That's what we need to do.
Now, do you, you mentioned shingles, and it made me think, do you do things like health programs where people can get immunizations or anything like that on site?
Right. HCS comes in once a month and does blood pressure screenings, and when it's flu season, they come in and give flu shots. And then once a week, HCS does a friendly meal. So that's our Wednesday meal.
Now, you're serving meals, though, beyond that Wednesday,
right,
correct?
We do a Friday meal right now, and I'm trying to organize a Tuesday meal. So, but the Friday meal is fun. It's a real collaborative. The students that are preparing the food and serving it are Keene State College nutrition students. And we've been doing this since the summer of 2014, so we've had a lot of students come through. And we have an Able Network job trainee who is the mentor, who teaches cooking, because a lot of students do the nutrition program, but they don't necessarily have a lot of kitchen experience. So, and certainly not making lunch for 30. So there's a nice teaching component to it. And then folks come and have lunch on Fridays, and it's nice. They have a nutrition lesson along with a nutritious meal.
And they probably enjoy the company of the students being there.
Oh yeah, the students are a treat. They sit down and talk with people, and it's very nice.
So let's talk about some of the other programs you're doing. So you have the meals program, you have the health check program. What are some of the other things going on? You know, you've always had the singers.
We have.
And they're probably very well known in the community.
Yeah, they are. The Keene Senior Center Swinger Singers, I think that's what they're called. And they're the swingers. And they've been growing in activity as well as membership. I think they're up to about 40 members.
Wow.
And it's a big group. They have this next month, I noticed they're going to be singing for the Cheshire Hospital Volunteer Appreciation Lunch.
Nice.
So they're the entertainment there, and they're also going to Maplewood. They sing at a lot of nursing homes. They have a regular circuit that they go through. And they also have an exchange concert with Charlestown Senior Center, which is always fun.
Now, you also had sort of piloted, and it's had some challenges, but you piloted a little singing program, I think, with one of the daycare centers.
Well, what we did was that we started out with the Keene Daycare Center, and we had a grant from the New Hampshire Endowment for the Arts. And that got us started, and we hired Allison and Hunt Smith, both professional music teachers, and they coached our seniors on interacting with the very young children. Singing kind of was there, but it wasn't really the focus of what we're doing. That program, the grant part of that program ended, and it's continuing now. And it's a friendship program where the seniors go in and play with the kids, and they have a really good time. It's very sweet. The kids the seniors just have to sit there, and the kids come to them. And they show them their toys. It's for about an hour, a couple of times, about 4 times a week, actually, there are time slots where people can go in and play with the kids. So it's a nice little project.
What a great intergenerational piece, you know, when we think about that, and I'm sure all of us have memories of, you know, you walk into a place that has children and they immediately grab legs and arms, and they want to be cuddled.
Yeah.
And to have our senior population really be available to them, you know, and when you think about it, a lot of these kids, their grandparents can't be present in their lives, and just a great opportunity for them to interact.
Right. One of my daughters was a toddler there at the end. Both her sets of grandparents were out of town. So this would have been a really nice little spot for her. I mean, we didn't have the program then, but you know, it's that kind of interaction, that intergenerational interaction, that's really important.
And you know, it becomes so important too, because when you think about you know, our generation that's coming up and our generation that's aging, wants to age in place, and the respect that needs to be generated and established between those groups, because the younger group becomes the caretakers, but the older group is the caretakers until they get there.
Yeah.
So really having that respect, that trust, that ability to communicate with each other, to learn that at an extremely young age, what a valuable gift.
It really is. It really is. One of the things that's driving a lot of my planning, and I know a lot of the city thinking, is that the population of seniors in New Hampshire is growing very, very fast. It's going to double in the next 15 years. This is all about the boomer generation. This is all about my generation. And that population is going to create a lot of need for senior programming. And where it falls, you know, whether it's with children or with themselves, in health programming, it's going to hit. It's the call program at Keene State. They're all going to need a lot of support along the way because this population is going to be huge. I mean, when I started elementary school, there were about 30 to 40 kids in a classroom, just because we were the boomers. And we've been this bubble in the population right through the years. And this is the driving force that's really going to change our community, because a third of us are going to be over 65, and we're going to be living longer.
Well, and I think those are some key elements to think about, that, you know, people are living longer. People are living healthier too. They're wanting to be in the workforce longer.
Right.
They're wanting to be active longer. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going into a nursing home or assisted living. Lots of times they want to age in place.
Absolutely.
They want to be engaged in the community. It's the biggest volunteer population.
Oh, yeah.
And we're, in a way, we're almost fortunate. I think a lot of people look at this and they think it's overwhelming, but think about the potential and the
yeah.
opportunity there. And I think that's a lot of what you've begun to develop some of your programming around, and really thinking about, you know, how do we keep people engaged and active in their lives, and, you know, part of the community and not isolated. And, you know, I think probably one of the other big challenges is, you know, we all
Yeah.
purchase homes,
Right.
you know, thinking we're going to be able to be in those homes for a long time. And we're in a rural area, so it becomes a little more challenging. We're fortunate that we have some transportation for our seniors,
And
especially
Keene, yeah.
here around Keene. Not so much in the region, but we're working on
Yeah.
all of that. So tell us a little bit more about some of the other things that you're doing. You have just some great programs.
Right. Well, senior, you just mentioned this aging in place. There is a program over in Jaffrey, Peterborough, Ringe area. I guess they come as far west as Harrisville. It's called Monadnock at Home, and it is a village program, a village to village. There's a village to village network that covers the country, and the founder of the Monadnock at Home program is now board president of the national organization,
Wow.
Frank Harden. And he has talked to us, and we're starting to explore creating a village based as a program of the senior center. A lot of the villages are standalone nonprofits, but seeing we already exist, it's a lot smoother sled to create a program out of us, attached to us. And we've really just started. We've had one meeting. I've had a staffer working on it for a few months to gather information. We have a lot to work on. But the idea behind it is that, first of all, people can stay in their homes as long as they possibly can. And volunteers and vendors go provide services in the homes. And the people who subscribe to this service, and it is a subscription service, will have an opportunity, first of all, to be members of the senior center. Everybody that subscribes will automatically be a member of the senior center. And we'll be able to have services like, you know, an individual call every day to check on people. The volunteers can go and change light bulbs and do light jobs around the house. If they're stumped and they need a plumber, then we can ask who in the area is a good plumber, so we can suggest that plumber. The other piece of that is transportation, and we're already talking with the Kentucket Valley Transportation Authority, and what's her first name?
Ellen Avery.
Ellen Avery came to our first meeting, and she explained to the people that were there that how that works and how it's going to work in the Keene and outside of Keene area. And that's a very big deal, because transportation, once you leave the Keene boundaries, and outside of Keene is 75% of our regional population, and there's real serious transportation issues.
Yes.
So the village program is just starting up, and we're just exploring. I spent my weekend reading all these documents put out by the national organization, and it's very interesting, very exciting. It'll be a lot of work. I'll need a lot of help.
Now, we'll come back to that
Yeah.
because volunteers are always critical. Would that also assist with things like grocery shopping or
Yes.
sort of those day-to-day or week-to-week activities?
Right, exactly. Those folks that, if you're home and you can't get out to do your grocery shopping, or it's a very big deal to get out to do your grocery shopping, you really need to have some help. Or you're going to end up in assisted living, you're going to end up in the nursing home, you know, you're going to end up really, really needing much more expensive services.
Well, it sounds like an exciting program, and I know it's one of many that you have going on.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some of the other ones that you have happening.
Well, two of the health-centered ones are a pre-diabetes program that we're doing with the hospital. Patty Schumann and the Healthy Monadnock folks have researched the best way to present information for pre-diabetic individuals, and there are thousands in the area. If you have a diagnosis from a doctor that you have at risk for diabetes, then you're a pre-diabetic candidate. And we have established a training group of coaches, and the assistant director at the senior center is one of the coaches, and she's also a grad of the nutrition program at Keene State. And what we do, it's a year-long evidence-based program designed by the CDC. So it looks like it will be the most long-lasting as far as effect goes. It's a year-long program. There's 16 weeks of training weekly, and then there's another monthly check-in with folks until the end of the year. So it's a long, involved process. But apparently, from what we understand about it, it's because it's so detailed that it's effective. Mm-hmm. And the idea is that you really need to. You can stop the onset of diabetes with a program that that changes nutrition, exercise, all these other factors. And the risk is really high. 50% of people who are pre-diabetic are considered really likely candidates for diabetes. So.
And how many people will participate in that program, Peg?
Well, right now we're filling up 3 classes. We got a class at the hospital, a class at the Y, and a class at the senior center. And so we filled up 3 classes, and we have a waiting list.
Wow.
So it's a.
So there's definitely interest.
There's definitely interest. Yeah.
Wow. So what else do you have?
Well,
Jeez, there's 2 exciting new programs right there.
The next program that we just started is the Balance program, and this we're doing with Dartmouth College and Dartmouth Medical School. They received funding to provide training for master coaches and for coaches under that master coach. And Linda Cook is a retired physical therapist. She worked for HCS for many years. And she has trained 2 coaches. One's Molly Lane, Mayor's wife, and the other is Sue Wanless, and she's been a yoga teacher for the Senior Center for many years, to be the coaches that also help her. So that balance class, again, was limited to the first 12 people, and that filled up in 2 days. Mm-hmm. So balance is a huge issue, huge issue. We've had 2 members just recently who have fallen in their homes and were down on the floor for one as long as 14 hours. So it's a big, big deal.
It is, and I'm aware of some of the statistics attached to that, partially because we've been housing an older person in our home, and you know, she's 91, and she's had to go through balance training, partially because of some of her physical abilities, surgeries that she's had.
Right.
It affects, you know, their balance, and for all of us as we get older, anyways, I think, you know, our hearing's affected, that affects our balance. There's just lots of things that go on, our eyesight. So what an important class.
It's very important. It's also really important to build confidence. Mm-hmm. You know, that yes, you can walk across that parking lot, and yes, you can get across that median, and yes, you won't fall, you won't trip on that curb. You know, it builds confidence, and that's a lot of the issue. Yeah.
It is, because lots of times people are afraid to leave their homes.
Right.
And, you know, this gives them an opportunity to not be isolated, to really be out and be social with other people and access meals, services that they need, and not be afraid to do that.
Right.
So it is important. Anything else, Peg?
Well, I wanted to talk about our National Able Network program. That's a program that has been in the area for a long time. Back when I worked for Big Brothers Big Sisters, we had National Able job trainees, and they are individuals who are 55 and older, who are income eligible, and they come to a nonprofit organization and provide a variety of services. Right now, we have 8 trainees working at the senior center, and that increases the capacity of us 2 paid employees, immeasurably. Just, so we have people who are working the front desk, people who are coaching students, people who are working on this village program, people working on membership statistics. I mean, just a big variety of programs, and also a big variety of skills. I mean, people are coming to us who, for whatever reason, need to have this extra job training, and they come with a lot of skills. It's really good. It's really good.
That's exciting, because I think so oftentimes we think of our workforce as being, you know, this younger 18 to 65 population, and really our workforce is much more extensive than that because of our volunteer base.
Because of your volunteer base and the fact that people are working longer.
They're working longer, and they're highly skilled.
Yes.
In all these different areas, and as we were just saying, they want to continue to be involved and
Exactly.
engaged. They don't want to sit home with these talents and skills and not be using them.
Right.
It's a way to keep the brain active. It's a way to keep yourself physically engaged.
Yeah.
So wonderful to see these opportunities for people to really be involved. I would recommend, how would people, if they want to volunteer, and they're, I think, 55 or
Right.
older, correct? If they're 55 or older, how do they reach out to you, Peg?
Well, the National Able Network area coordinator is Kathy Brown, and if you go to their website, you can get in touch with her. If you can't find it on the website, or if you don't use a computer, just call us at the Senior Center and we can connect you up with Kathy. We've actually had this program going for a while, and we've had 3 people from the program graduate to regular paying jobs. So it works. It really works. So
That's
it's
great.
It's good.
That's great.
Yeah.
You've got more, I know you do.
And I'm just focusing on the stuff that I think is the most important right now. We've got 3 programs that are focused on the 0 to 5 age group, and it's going to be it's a challenge. It's a challenge for older people to feel confident with working with very young children. Sometimes they're afraid of catching colds, which that does happen. They're afraid of dropping a child. They're afraid they're going to get knocked over. So we're trying to break down some of those barriers. And so we have a program going with the Keene Daycare Center now, where the seniors go in a few times a week and be with the kids and have a really good time. Also, we have a group of young mothers that comes to the Senior Center on Sunday nights called Holistic Moms, and they have the opportunity to have a facility and have our equipment, what we have to offer, to teach young moms about breastfeeding and gardening with young children and all the things that young mothers need to know about. So we feel good about that.
That's a great program, because you can also it's really a mentoring piece in many
Yeah.
ways, because I think about, breastfeeding's a great example that oftentimes young mothers, new mothers are a little bit frightened by it,
Oh, yeah.
unsure, and to have a mentor there who's been through that
Yeah.
experience and can work with them, that's just
Yeah.
great stuff.
Yeah, it's a good program. Amanda Toll is leading that up. She's a good job. She does a great job. She's she was a school teacher in the Massachusetts somewhere, but she good program, excellent program. The other thing that we're working on that I'm very proud of, and that's a program called Grand Heroes, and it's a support group for grandparents who are raising grandchildren.
Mm-hmm.
This is really scary. I have 4 grandchildren. I can't imagine the responsibility of raising them. And this is happening all over the place. And it's a growing issue for a variety of reasons. One of the reasons is that parents who have serious drug issues can't raise their own children. And then there are lots of other issues too. Sometimes the parents are ill, or it's a single parent and she or he is ill. There's lots of reasons why that grandparents have stepped in and done this role. And it's pretty scary because I know at my age, I don't think about young children. I don't think about bus schedules or making lunches for my kids at night. I'm thinking about working and traveling and doing things with my husband, but I'm not thinking about very young children. So these many cases, couples and sometimes single people, are thrust into this role that they never really anticipated they would have to have. And the kids are facing this situation where their parents are not raising them.
And we see that, through the United Way. And
Yeah.
I was just working, looking at all the reports from 2015 from the 50 different programs that are supported. And, we can see some of the age populations and the challenges they're having. And we know that then it becomes the responsibility of different generations to
Right.
potentially step in. And, of course, substance abuse and mental health issues being significant contributors to grandparents having to come forward and,
Right.
and assist their families and children. So it's great that you're doing that program. And I would imagine that all of these things, in a way, connect to each other, because when I think about balance and being confident about balance and, your health checks and diabetes prevention, those are all part of things connected to then you maybe being a grandparent and being able to be in that role
Right.
as a hero. And
I'm not a hero. I'm just a grandmother. Actually, I'm a mère, thank you.
oh, I got to tell you, my mom and dad were amazing
Yeah.
with their grandchildren, and we miss them dearly.
Yeah.
But boy, even my dad had Parkinson's, and even through the Parkinson's, he still was engaged
Wow. Yeah.
with the kids. And people do want to be an active part of their lives. Sometimes not
Yeah.
the way they necessarily end up being a
Yeah.
part of their lives, but I think that grandparents like to be connected to young people.
Yeah,
So that's another super program you have going on. You have anything else, Peg?
Well, I want to talk a little bit about the whole rec center
Yes.
initiative. We went to the city council in December, and we asked to start formal negotiations with the city, and we have been doing that. We've been talking with Andy Bohannon who's Parks and Recreation and Facilities Director, and we're going to be looking at more activity in May as the budget comes up. Probably the next step in doing this project will be to do a feasibility study. Because the project is twofold. First of all, it's to find a way of folding the senior center into the Parks and Recreation building and doing whatever needs to be done to that building to make it work. And also to make improvements to the Parks and Recreation building itself. That building was built in the mid-'80s, and it hasn't had a lot of attention since. They've had the upkeep, of course, but they haven't rebuilt anything. I think they did a new roof a while back, but it hasn't had a lot of work. So they're really needing to upgrade their building also. There are things like it's not air conditioned. In the summertime, some of those rooms can really be tough.
I'm well aware of that.
Really tough. So there's all kinds of things that we're looking at. So that's the first step. And the Senior Center Board set aside money to pay for our share of that feasibility study. So we're going to the city, not with our handout, but with willing to be a partner with them in this project. And why the rec center? First of all, the rec center and the senior center have had a long time collaborative arrangements. We have a few programs now that meet at the rec center. The rec center Parks and Rec director has been a member of our board since before 1975, and since 1975, it was the same person. It was Brian Mattson. He just got off our board a few months ago. I've been talking to him since, of course, and I wouldn't let him turn in a key to the building, So he's still very connected with us, and of course Andy's still on our board. So there's been a long time connection there. And in many municipalities in the state, cities are the sole support or the significant supporters of rec centers. And that has never been the case in Keene. So we've had support from the city. It's never been significant support. So that's an important thing, that it's not unusual that the cities, municipalities step up to the plate. And because we serve all kinds of people in all different age categories, not age categories, but income categories, it really is a community-wide program versus a poverty program. That's a major reason for this collaboration. The other is the Parks and Recreation building is very, very busy after 3:30 in the afternoon. We are very, very busy until 3:30 in the afternoon. At 3:30, 4 o'clock, particularly in the wintertime, we really slow down. So it's kind of a natural fit that we can use this space that's there. And of course, they have parking. And they will have to have even more parking, but the parking is very, and it's on the bus route.
I was going to say it's also on the bus route for people, so
Yeah.
that makes a huge difference. So you have a lot going on, Peg. Do you have any fundraising efforts, anything that you're doing that you want people to be aware of coming up?
We have a retirement fair. Thank you for asking. We have a retirement fair coming up June 25th. It will be at the rec center, and we invite vendors and other nonprofits to participate. And people come and learn about all different components of retirement life. We've done it for a few years now. It's grown bigger and bigger each year. And this year we have a large group of people that we're going to be calling nonprofits who use volunteers, so they can solicit for volunteers at this fair.
Oh, great. That's super. And I'm also assuming that they get information about things like, living on a fixed income and some of these other things, because as you know, you mentioned the poverty issue. One of the things we're seeing is that a lot of the senior population is struggling because they're having to take care of families at times, but also, the economy has changed fairly dramatically, and when you're living on a fixed income, it can be more challenging. And because we have a growing senior population, we're seeing the growing poverty level. I just did a lot of the statistics from the reports that were generated by our programs, and we're definitely seeing the senior population very much utilizing a lot of the basic needs services, transportation, food, shelter, warmth, weatherization programs. A lot of them tend to be in that 65 plus age range.
Some of them have been poor all of their lives, or they've lived struggling all of their lives. Others have come into poverty circumstances because of illness. Women because they've divorced, and all of a sudden they don't have the income of their spouse, and they're not raising children, so they don't get any support. If people come to it in lots and lots of different ways. The reason for any senior center anywhere in the world to exist is to stave off loneliness. And that's the biggest factor toward depression, other health issues. It will drive people to death. Ken Jew said, senior isolation is a killer. And it's such a fundamental need to be out with people that senior centers have to do what we do.
Well, love is at one of the basic levels of
Exactly.
What we need in our lives. So important. So you have an upcoming event on the 25th.
Right.
You're in need of volunteers.
We always use volunteers. We have about 100 volunteers now. We use volunteers in lots and lots of different capacities, and lots of times people will join a senior center just for the volunteer experience, and that's good. That's really good, because connecting and giving is really important.
It definitely is, and all the research shows that if you're volunteering, you feel better about yourself.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So, any other needs that you have? You've got this new building, potentially, you're working on. I know you have struggles in the building you're in because of the size and the age of it.
The age of it, and we're filling it up. I mean, we have very few gaps in our schedule now where we actually have a room free for something to happen, where years ago we had lots of gaps. So our program is very full. Probably the biggest need is going to come in the relatively near future, because if we're able to do what we need to do with the rec center, we're probably going to have some community support to help us with that.
So will there be a capital campaign?
I don't know yet.
Anticipate?
I don't know yet. There's some legislation that's sitting in Congress. It's now in the Senate Conference Committee. It's the reauthorization of the Older Americans Act. And the Older American Act is what funds Meals on Wheels and transportation programs. And in this community, HCS has that contract. But there's also, in the original draft of that legislation, so heaven only knows what will happen, but in the original, there's money there for senior center efforts, especially if they're intergenerational. So maybe there might be some funds there for the rec center, because the rec center has intergenerational money.
So really an opportunity to do some advocacy perhaps on the part of our citizens, that they could reach out to our state senators and our Congress women and folks.
The folks now that are in place now are all very supportive. I have no problems with that. And the president has said that he's going to sign this act. It's just getting them to do something, and that's been a problem with this Congress right along. Is that they're just really slow acting. But when this is passed, there may be some resources there that we can really tap into. Invariably, there will probably be match money that will have to be gathered. So we'll see where we get it from.
Well, I would encourage you, public, to really reach out and advocate with, Senator Shaheen, Ayotte, reach out to Representative Custer. Get out there and get your voice heard, whether it's just dropping a note or making a phone call. Even though they may be supportive, when there's more and more public voice in there, it makes a difference when it comes to that bigger level at the federal level.
Yeah, it certainly does. It makes a huge amount of difference. The money will come to the state, and then if it's available, then we'll apply to it to the state. So we're working on it.
And that's even more reason to be advocating now, because lots of times when things hit the state level from the federal level, it doesn't quite filter down to the local.
Right. Right,
And
see.
we want to see something like this happening at the local level,
And
because
it-
you're the
and-
one delivering this great, amount of services.
Right. Yeah, and Keene is unique, or the Keene Senior Center is unique. We were the first senior center in the state. We just recently found that out. So we were founded in 1957, and we are the only senior center that doesn't receive significant federal or state or city money. So we've been funded through the United Way and other contributors and our membership for years, because you've been there and we've needed help. So it's because of you guys that we do as well as we do.
And even now, we see that that's not enough anymore, that you have to have support out there from different avenues.
Oh,
that
absolutely.
that it has to be that combination of, federal, state, local. Our donors are amazing here in the Monadnock
Yeah.
region. Kudos to them, because they helped achieve, goal for 2016 to
Right.
make sure programs like yours are funded. But we know the need is much greater than that. And, for people to have opportunities like you're talking about, it requires the support
Yeah.
of people. And the cost of these things don't go down.
Oh, no.
Unfortunately, it's like everything else, the costs go up.
Yeah.
And so, donors, we encourage you to support programs like the Keene Senior Center. It's amazing. You can hear what they're able to do with these resources that you provide out there. Peg, you're doing some wonderful things.
Thank you.
So exciting to hear, and great to hear this intergenerational piece, to hear that you're, engaging with, birth all the way through, providing opportunities, not just for our seniors, but for all of our citizens, to really thrive here in the Monadnock region. Want to give you a moment to just share how people can reach out via phone or website with you?
Yeah, our phone number is 603-352 5730. I think that's it. And we have a website, thekeenseniorscenter.org. And I am going to check on the phone number. I hate it when I get in these places.
Oh, don't feel bad. I have to think about my home phone.
It's 352-5037.
5037. And if you do have questions, audience, about how to reach out to the Keene Senior Center, you can certainly call Monadnock United Way or call 211, and they will connect you to the Keene Senior Center. Peg, I want to thank you for joining us,
Oh, you're
and
welcome. Thank
for
you for
sharing all
having
the
me.
wonderful things that are happening at the Keene Senior Center. We are truly fortunate to have this kind of facility, and since 1957 here in the Monadnock region, and it's one of the unique, great programs that is brought to our citizens through, concerted community efforts to support it, whether it's volunteers, donors, people advocating, just all of those things. So thank you again for being here. And audience, I want to thank you for joining us tonight and remind you, please live united by giving, volunteering, and advocating. Take care.